Hey, Arian here. My friend recently texted me and was like, so what you not eating? Where's the what I eat in a week? Yes, I have been eating, not well, but here I am, apparently, with a cereal craving. So this is me using the leftover puffed kamut that I had in my pantry. I decided finally that had to go. So I just had it with some almond milk. But you know me, I gotta have fruit in the morning, and that's what I constitute as breakfast. So I had to throw some strawberries in there. And by breakfast, you already know what I mean, because I probably start eating at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if that. And as per usual, y'all, I don't always feel like cooking. So when I don't feel like cooking, the meals just, the steps dwindle down to about 1, maybe 2 at most. Therefore, this day, I just made some noodles and just coated it with this Sichuan oil. And that's literally it. Might have been some coconut aminos in there too. And I've seen people add like peanut butter. I like peanut butter, but not a huge fan of peanut sauces. So that's why you never see me make them on this channel. And if you saw the last What I Eat in a Week video, I made this grapefruit syrup because I had really been missing my tea. Since I don't eat first thing in the morning, water is absolutely a must, or definitely tea. And if I'm really feeling adventurous, I might even have some coffee. As a matter of fact, I know you guys saw me make the brown sugar oatmilk latte on my Instagram, so I will be making that later on in this video, and we will be making it from scratch. As a matter of fact, let's just roll a clip now. Start off with your brown sugar, boil equal parts sugar and water until all of the sugar is dissolved. And if you happen to have a kidney thermometer, then cook this to about 220 degrees. Keep the heat low and slow. So I let that cool off a bit, and then I added a tablespoon to my glass, at least initially, as well as some coffee concentrate that I just bought. And I'm sorry, I really tried, but I don't measure things. Y'all know this. In fact, everything I write in the description box is a guesstimation. It's not exact. Why? Because anytime I've ever asked my mom for a recipe growing up, her response is always, oh, you just put it in until it looks about right. So that's it. That's what I do. But also, this is really just going to be based off of your personal preference. So feel free to add as much coffee and as much sweetener as you would personally like. And this is optional, but if you want to mimic the way this looks in the stores, then you'll notice that I'm pouring my oat milk over a spoon. This is so that you get that nice separation. Top it with some cinnamon, and voila. I much prefer tea, but let's just face it, sometimes a coffee just slaps. It's like dessert to me. So I have it here and there. And just to show you the difference between pouring it over the spoon and not doing it, this is what that looks like. Yeah, huge difference, right? And how about we actually make some food? So here I bought some cabbage, the wrong type of cabbage, I know, cutting it up to pieces that I think are gonna be appropriately bite-sized, and also dicing up an onion. And this is just one of many recipes that I really wanted to try because I've never had Ethiopian food before. I have just a lot of naturally vegetarian dishes, or actually technically vegan. I didn't even tell you what this dish is called, but this is Tikil Gomen, and so many people tell me that I look Ethiopian. And while I can't confirm that information, let's just say I'm embracing it anyway. So please, give me all of the recipes in the comments, and also I will link the video that inspired me to make this dish. I really tried to be as authentic as possible, but if I have come nowhere close, I am so sorry. Criticism is welcome, so please do help me. Also, I didn't have any injera, so I used what I could get my hands on. Please forgive me. Okay, so here's the thing. I've been obsessed with scones, and this is the one that started it all. This is a like rose and pistachio scone, which, how do I say this nicely? I feel like it's not that great, but is also like kind of is, because like the texture is just so, Anyway, this I probably make no sense, but I'm having that with a matcha latte. But here's the thing, I didn't have any ice, and it's literally the only way that I like matcha. So I put in a scoop of ice cream. Did it make it entirely cold? No, but did it help a lot? Also no. But you know, it wasn't bad. In fact, I would actually top it with my regular matcha, but still actually add ice. And if you saw one of my previous What I Eat in a Week, specifically the subscriber pick What I Eat in a Day, then you may remember I asked you guys if you wanted to see the recipes of the meals that didn't get picked. So this is me making the shrimp and grits, which I'm really using the term loosely because we're not even using like a faux shrimp. We're literally just using lobster mushrooms. I've also used these in a previous recipe when I made the lobster mac and cheese. I'm trying to use up as much as I can before, oh, did I mention that I'm moving? So the less we have to pack, the better. So I'm just marinating them in a little bit of Old Bay. You could also use like vegetable or no chicken broth, just to impart as much flavor as you can from the beginning while they rehydrate. And I also found sausages that I didn't know existed in my freezer, so in that one as well. And then after that, sweated a little, diced up my mushrooms, because mushrooms ain't it for me. So I gotta tone down the texture, preferably make it even smaller than bite size. So I'm kind of like hiding it from myself, then season it up. I'm using a Cajun spice blend, except for I don't actually have a blend. And by the way, recipes will be listed in the description box down below. And also you can find details on anything that I own. So all of my kitchenware will also be linked. Adding a ice cube block of my homemade veggie stock. And I definitely used more liquid than I needed because whenever I've personally had shrimp and grits, it's always been kind of like so I guess subconsciously that's what I was going for because I've never had anything different. So to thicken up our gravy, I added in a cornstarch slurry. As you can see, almost instantly, it gets the job done. So then we're ready to plate, and I just added some like fresh parsley, spring onions, and some butter. Really would have slapped, but I ain't having these. Needless to say, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And speaking of things I thoroughly enjoy, y'all know how I feel about onions, right? We're all well aware on this channel, correct? So why is it that I have never actually tried this combination? Like, y'all don't see me mentioning caramelizing onions very often, and that's because I'm lazy. I ain't got that kind of time. Usually when I'm cooking, I want to eat. And when I say I want to eat, I mean 15 minutes ago. So the fact that I even cook for myself at home is really a mystery to me. Now we're turning that into a grilled cheese. So yes, caramelized onion grilled cheese. Music to my ears, really. So I took the last 2 slices of the croissant toast that I had, added some vegan cheddar, which actually had that like sharpness, which paired perfectly with the sweetness of the onions. And I know I gotta season my grilled cheese, so a little salt, pepper, garlic powder. Let me tell you something, this had no business tasting this good. And I was thoroughly upset when it was going because, as y'all can see, it's a little, but you know what, that probably worked out in my favor because this is quite satiating. Speaking of Instagram, another dish that I shared with you guys was the lasagna soup. So when I was younger, my mom used to go play cards with her friends, and naturally everyone brought food. And I guess my mom got tired of making what she normally made because she went up on Pinterest and she found a recipe for lasagna soup. I believe at the time I was vegetarian, but I couldn't try it because it definitely had ground meat in it. And I don't know if this is like a repressed memory, but it came up recently and I was like, wait a minute, why have I never made a vegan version of that? So that's what we're doing today. And I'm first starting off with a ground meat substitute. This is actually just ground chickpea flour and pecans, along with Italian spices. You can buy it pre-made as a mix or feel free to make it yourself. Then you just mix it with water until it becomes gelatinous. Add that to your pan, and then you just want to keep stirring it, moving it around. And hello, this is me we're talking about, so I'm adding probably an entire onion to this as well, naturally. So I'm just gonna cook that together before adding in my tomato. And normally I would make the sauce myself, but again, we try and get rid of these pantry items. So I used what was in my cupboard, and then I added my own spices to it, as well as the last of my homemade veggie stock. Lastly, all you gotta do is break up your lasagna noodles into bite-sized pieces or however large you would like them. Just follow the instructions on your packaging for how long you should cook the noodles. What's great is that starch also thickens up the soup. And yes, I'm aware that it is spring, but we got a lot of rain coming, so just wait for a cool day. Wait for a nice breeze, or just do what I do. Turn on the air conditioning. Trick your body into thinking it's winter. No one will ever know. So now you just plate it, or bowl it in this instance, and then add your ricotta cheese as a final touch. And guys, when I tell you this is the easiest meal to make, especially to all my parents out there, listen, this keeps beautifully in the refrigerator, and I'm sure it would also freeze beautifully. Again, speaking of emptying my pantry, I'm also using some canned jackfruit, and I like to go through this and just cut off the innermost triangle because this is all fiber, none of it is fruit. And that part specifically is the core, which is actually pretty hard. And even though it's been sitting in the brine, I think it's kind of tough. So it's really up to you. I'm sure you could keep it, but I just like to remove it. And because I don't want to eat this raw, I'm actually just going to bake it, which is also going to like dry it out a bit, because while I am all for texture and mouthfeel, wet and mushy just ain't it. And I decided to add a little bit of salt and pepper because I don't know what I was thinking not. And I even added a little bit of Old Bay, totally optional. And yeah, it would have made more sense for me to just do that while it was in the bowl. But apparently I lose brain cells when I'm hungry. So AKA unable to make otherwise apparent and obvious decisions, otherwise referred to as common sense. And I believe I baked this at 400 degrees, as I do with most things because I'm impatient, until it looked about right. And instead of just using like regular toasted nori sheets, I'm using these like the same thing as the seaweed snacks. So I think they're like fried a little bit or something. The texture is different and they're like oilier. I don't know, child, don't get me to lying. But anyway, so I spread some sticky rice onto that. And then when it was done, I mixed our cooled tuna with some sriracha and mayo. And this is, you guessed it, my spicy tuna roll. And yes, I do mean roll because I didn't even cut this up. I just ate it burrito style. Also, I had 2 of these, by the way. Highly recommend as another lazy meal. Yes, it does take more effort than a little bit, but totally worth it. And yet another meal that I shared with you guys on Instagram, some avocado toast. And this was me using the last of my ricotta because honestly, I didn't have any more soup and I didn't plan on making any more at that time, but I also added some chives. Highly recommend. I know I mentioned this before, but one of you guys commented that your tongue doesn't actually register spiciness. I believe it can only taste like sweet, salty, bitter, or sour. Like spicy food just inflicts pain. So apparently I just wake up every day and choose violence because literally everything has to have the kick to it. In what is an absurd amount of butter, I am adding some shallots and some fresh thyme, also some sage. And after that's cooked for just a few minutes, becomes fragrant, I'm also gonna add in some of the cooking water for my pasta because this is the difference between having a sauce and just a melted stick of butter. And it's actually gonna grab onto the noodles rather than just pulling in a little puddle on your plate. So yes, that step is important. I don't know how it works, but it does. So to that, I'm gonna add my butternut squash ravioli, and then I'm just frying a final piece of the sage to top my dish. And again, you gotta make this. I know I said it before, but like, forget the term, if you don't make anything else, make this. Make everything. Y'all, make everything. And then also tag me. I love seeing your recreations. In fact, in the words of my best friend, it makes my heart fart. I just want you to have fun with your food and be happy. The purpose of life is to live it, so just enjoy it as much as you possibly can. Speaking of enjoyment, you know I love fruit on a whole nother level. To see these yellow dragon fruits, if you don't know, the yellow ones are the sweetest kind. Like honestly, these are the best in my opinion. There are other ones that are good too, but they're like impossible to find. Number 1 tip, of course when you buy fruit at the store, don't eat it immediately. It's never ripe, and if it is, it's not far enough. So I left these on my counter for about 3 days, then transferred them to my refrigerator for like another 2 days. They were amazing. And I really wanted a fruit salad, so I added some blueberries and some blackberries, and y'all, you know what? Y'all know that TikTok recipe that was, all over the internet? This is nature's cereal, y'all. This is it. You don't need nothing else. You don't gotta pour anything in it. You ain't gotta add ice. Because the berries are not super sweet, the dragon fruit adds all the sweetness that you need, as well as a ton of hydration. This fruit is so juicy, so you don't even need milk or coconut water. And I wasn't lying, I really have had a scone addiction lately. So when I found these blueberry ones at Whole Foods, I was like, say less. And they weren't too sweet, so I had that with another Oatmilk Latte. And that concludes what I ate, but I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up because it really lets me know what you want to see. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.